Good morning and welcome to Engage. Sometimes when we read the Bible together, we misunderstand what the Bible is. Sometimes we think of the Bible as God's answer book to us, and certainly it answers some very basic questions. However, it doesn't answer all of our questions, but I do think that it addresses the big questions that we need to ask. Particularly, what it answers is what God is like. Who is God that we worship? Who is the Creator that made all things around us? Who is that God? I'd like for you to read in Scripture this morning or this evening, whenever you're doing this, from 1 John, the 4th chapter, the 7th to the 11th verse. The words will be on the screen here. After you read it, I'd like for you to talk for a moment about what this Scripture passage, what does John tell us who God is like? Take a moment and do that. Of course, you'll have noticed that the Scripture passage defines exactly who God is. What it says is that God is love. It also says to us that we know that God is love because God reveals himself in this man named Jesus. One of the things that we might want to think about as you read Scripture at any time is to think through how God is shown to us in a particular passage. Let me give you another example of this. One of the great chapters in the New Testament is the 15th chapter of the Gospel of Luke. In that 15th chapter, there are 3 different stories, all of which tells us about the character of God. The first is the story of a lost sheep. The second is the story of a lost coin. And the third story is the story of a lost boy. You might want to read maybe just one of those. In fact, let me do that with you. This is from Luke. I got to find it in my own Bible. You all hang on for a second here. Luke 15. I'm going to start with the 3rd verse and read through the 6th verse. And so he, as Jesus, told them this parable. Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I found my sheep that was lost. John tells us in his letter that God is love. And Luke tells us in this parable what God's love is like. God's love is so great for us that even when we are lost, God searches us out. Even when we wander off from our family or our friends or from God himself, God's not content to leave you out there by yourself, but loves you so much that he comes and looks for you. You might want to think and pray together about those times when you felt lost and how it is that you were found and what that means to you and how it tells us about God's love for us.